Imagine having to defend your beliefs in front of a room full of geniuses that disagreed with you. One of history's most beloved saints did this and won. Today we're meeting St. Katherine of Alexandria. Everyone named Catherine, Katrina, Caitlin, or Katie is technically named after St. Katherine of Alexandria. She is the first Catherine known to history and one of the most beloved saints of Christianity. This is proven by just how popular her name has remained for centuries. There is a state named after her in Brazil, mountains named after her in Arizona, universities and cities named after her in the UK, the USA, Canada, Spain, Greece, the Philippines, and more. Catherine lived in the early 4th century in the North African city of Alexandria. This was a place famous as a center of learning, and some of the most intelligent people in the known world lived there. Catherine was the daughter of the governor of Alexandria. She was very wealthy and famously beautiful. In a city full of geniuses, Catherine stood out. She knew all of the Greek poets, she knew astronomy and philosophy and mathematics. And at one point, her parents were becoming a bit nervous that she wasn't getting married, and they asked her about it. What is wrong with all of these great guys that keep trying to meet you? And she said, look, if you can find me a man better looking than me, wiser than me, more intelligent than me, and nobler than me, I'll marry him. But if you can't meet those criteria, I'll stay by myself. Now, Catherine's mother had, long before this, secretly become a Christian, and she saw that her daughter was after something far more than this city of learning even could give to her. And so she recommended Catherine to go and speak with a wise Christian elder that she knew. And Catherine, keen to gain knowledge from anyone, and hearing that this was a person she had not previously met, went eagerly to discuss with him. She told the elder what she had told her parents about not believing that there was a worthy man anywhere in the world, and the elder said to her, I know a man who surpasses you in everything. And he spoke to her about the Lord Jesus Christ, the Son of God, King of the universe, the resurrected one. Everything he said to her made Catherine realize that Christ was surely the only man worth knowing in any way at all. Before she left, the elder gave to her a small icon of the infant Christ in the arms of Our Lady, and told her to pray before this icon and inquire of Christ. She took the icon home and prayed late into the night, calling upon God to answer her and show her what was the truth. Finally, she slept, and in her sleep she had a strange dream. In her dream, she saw Mary, the Theotokos, holding the infant Christ. And Mary pointed to Catherine and said, look at your friend, Catherine. And Christ wouldn't look at her and said, but she's ugly. And Catherine woke up. It was exactly the push that she needed. Everything that she had had, all of the beauty that was so renowned by the world, was nothing to Christ. It didn't mean anything to Christ. What meant something was an inner transformation, something deeper. And she realized that that could be found in Christianity, and she returned to the elder and asked to be taught everything. She was soon baptized, and the night of her baptism she dreamt again, and this time looked directly into the face of Christ. Soon after this time, there came a new major pagan festival in the city of Alexandria, overseen by the Emperor Maximinus. Now, Maximinus hated Christianity and had been stamping it out in various places, going against what previous rulers had done to actually give Christianity a few more freedoms. It was because of his hatred of Christianity and because of his desire to associate himself with the ancient gods that he is the last figure in Egypt ever to refer to himself as the Pharaoh. This new festival was full of idolatrous celebrations and the execution of Christian prisoners. And in the middle of this festival and in the middle of these festivities, on one of the days, suddenly came the most beautiful woman that anyone in the crowd had ever seen, the governor's daughter. She stood in the center of the festivities and addressed the emperor directly, referring to this disgusting mess as evil and foul, and calling forward her support of Christ and her position as a Christian. This was shocking. Wasn't even angry. He was just more surprised. He had seen her before at events. She was the governor's daughter. And here she was risking her life? So he tried to talk her down. And he allowed her to reply. And when she did so, she spoke of the death and the resurrection of Christ, of the power of Christianity's teaching about Jesus. And the emperor was not as intelligent as her, and she began to sound more and more compelling, and he could see in the faces of the crowd around him that more of them were looking at her and thinking, what is this Christian faith? This disturbed him, and he wanted to stop this from spreading. Not wanting to kill her, but convinced that she was wrong, he set up a challenge for her, a debate about the merits of Christianity, about the divinity of Jesus Christ. On one side of the debate, the young and beautiful governor's daughter, Katherine. On the other side of the debate, the 50 most intelligent philosophers and teachers and students that the emperor could bring together. But the thing was, she knew everything that they were quoting. She knew their philosophers as well as they did. And these 50 philosophers, all of whom were men, began to, one by one, be swayed by her arguments. Because the emperor hadn't gathered 50 pagan men that hated Christianity, he had gathered 50 scholars. They were all after the truth, and they began to see it in what she told them. After several days of spirited debate and discussion, as the various defenses of these men wore down, all of them, one by one, began to agree with her and become excited at the prospect of entering into the Holy Church, into the fellowship of Christ, and they went out into the city to seek the Christians and seek baptism. After several days of this debate, the emperor came to learn all 50 of these men had been baptized, and all 50 of them highly respected the lady Katherine. The most senior of these philosophers approached the emperor and said to him, "She's right about everything." The emperor was furious. He was a twisted, evil man with a military past and a hate of these Christians, and it began a massacre. He killed the 50 men, and he began to order tortures for Katherine. And through every single one of these tortures, she remained herself, graceful, strong, powerful. The most famous of these tortures was one that actually didn't happen, and it was the famous wheel of Katherine, a wheel embedded with spikes to which she was supposed to be tied. But just before this was supposed to happen, she prayed, reached out, touched the wheel, and it broke. In some stories, it is said that the fragments of the wheel rolled down the hill and actually killed several of the other torturers. Her courage in the face of all of this evil, her strength and resolve, impressed the very people who were there to see her suffer. Among them was the emperor's wife, Augusta. Amongst them was a high-ranking courtier named Porphyrios, and amongst them was several of the soldiers assigned to guard her. All of them became Christians. There were more executions, but Maximian still wanted to convince her. He wanted to break her, and it wasn't working. Eventually, after killing his own wife, he offered marriage to Katherine if she would but recant her Christian faith. She could be an empress. And of course, she said no. Finally, her work and her witness was done, and she was beheaded by the Romans. Her story, her courage, her presentation of the gospel stuck in the minds of the people, and not many years later, Christianity was made legal across the Roman world, and St. Catherine's memory was preserved with love by Christians everywhere. Today, her relics are held in the monastery of St. Catherine on the foot of Mount Sinai. This is the oldest continually operating monastery in the entire world, and pilgrims from all over the world visit here every year on the feast of St. Catherine. From Eastern Christianity all through the West, St. Catherine is regarded highly by all Christians, remembered for her courage, her wisdom, her grace, and her love of the Lord Jesus Christ. She is one of the most powerful saints in the history of the Church. Thank you very much for watching this episode. It is somewhat of an in the family episode because St. Catherine is the patron saint of our older sister. So this one's for you. We're accompanying the episode with a cup of spearmint tea. In my personal opinion, spearmint is better than peppermint tea. It's got a little bit more strength to it.